Hi, welcome back to The Scent Advocate. Today I want to talk a little bit more about fragrance buying, collecting, and personal finances and kind of how all those things intersect and my fragrance journey. And I am by no means an expert on personal finances or what the right thing is to do in someone else's circumstances. I can only tell you what works for me and what hasn't worked for me. Buyer's remorse, the effect that content creators in the fragrance community can have on me and how that's shaped my decision to start a channel of my own. Now, I did a video that touched on this a little bit not too long ago. It got several views, and that's great because I'm just starting out. What I do for a living is very, very different. It has nothing to do with media. It has nothing to do with marketing or promoting anything, and it has nothing to do with fragrance. This is just my personal pleasure. I loved fragrance from when I was a child. I had scratch and sniff stickers. I had dolls with scented hair. I had a small fragrance collection of my own from an early age. I think my very first fragrance was probably Chanel No. 5 Eau de Parfum, if I remember correctly. It was amazing. I fell in love, and it wasn't just the fragrance, it was also there was a lotion that came with it, and I think a body dusting powder with the big powder puff. And it was amazing. I loved it. It came in a gorgeous black case, I think, with, it looked acrylic. Very nice. And from there, I had other fragrances that would come along into my life. I think there was Prince Machiavelli something or other. It was a very ornate bottle that looked like the chest of a prince wearing, completely accoutred in royal garb. It was really beautiful. It also could have been the head of a crown, the top of a crown. I can't remember exactly. I remember being confused by it as a child. Anyway, I just fell in love with fragrance. My mother always wore beautiful fragrances, and that just kind of set me off. And I started out my young adult life with very little money. I went to school for a long time, and I borrowed my way through school. I didn't have any money for a while because most of what I made went to repay my loans and just pay basic living expenses. So when I was finally able to buy something other than, I don't know, body mist, I allowed myself a few indulgences, once or twice a year, and I asked for fragrances for gifts from loved ones for birthdays and Christmas or anything else that would come up, and I really enjoyed them. So when did fragrance become a top priority in my life? The answer is never. Fragrance is something I've always enjoyed. Like I enjoy wearing nice clothes, like I enjoy a vacation when I can. But to say that fragrance is something I put before life's important issues, right now I have a child. My child is taking a nap. Otherwise, I'd be with my child. I'd be spending time with my child. It's a weekend. My husband is running errands. Otherwise I'd be spending time with him. There's never a circumstance where I would put buying a fragrance ahead of paying a bill or doing something for my family or buying a present for someone I care about. Never, never. I would never put myself in financial harm's way. What I spend on fragrance is based on a lot of careful contemplation because a lot of the fragrances I enjoy, they're not inexpensive. Even though I say that fragrance is not a priority in my life, it is something that I enjoy. And I enjoy many things. This is one that I especially enjoy. I enjoy it enough to take the time and talk about it with the three of you that are listening. And so I like to add to my collection when it adds something different to my collection, when it adds something positive to my life, which is why I carefully contemplate the price, the timing of my buying, and whether I have a fragrance that is the same or really similar. I'm very careful to make sure that I'm not buying anything in duplicate. That's really important to me. I see content creators going through their collections, and to be fair, a lot of them say that they are given these fragrances as promotions to talk about on their channels. And that may be why they have duplicates. When they say, oh, this fragrance smells exactly like these other three, and I have full bottles of all four. It begs the question, why would you have so many fragrances that smell the same or almost the same? It's a personal choice as always, but for me, that's not really something I can relate to. I would never do that. Now, if I had, a whole lot of time and a whole lot of disposable income that I could put towards that, I don't know. I probably still wouldn't do it. But some people might. And as long as it's not hurting you or anybody else, my feeling is knock yourself out. But for me, that would hurt me. That would be too much money for me to spend on something that is really duplicative. Just like I wouldn't buy the exact same shirt in, I don't know, 4 different shades of blue. And that is my personal decision. Some people are very, very happy having the same pair of shorts in 5 different colors. And if that makes you happy, go for it. And if that makes you happy with fragrance, go for it. For me, I don't do that, and that helps to save me some money. I remember that if I want a fragrance that is a leather vanilla with some smoke, I have a fragrance called Oh the Audacity by Penhaligon's that smells like that. Do I need another? Well, the truth is I've come across a few that are really similar, and I've passed on them. Loved them. They're gorgeous. But I wouldn't buy them because I have a fragrance that smells almost exactly the same. So that's a way that I kind of scale back and manage my spending. Something else I try to do when it comes to making a decision to buy a fragrance is I pause. If I love a fragrance, I will love it today, tomorrow, and next week. Fear of missing out, the FOMO, I've never suffered from that. I mean, I get it. If you think there's a really amazing deal out there on a gray market site for a fragrance you absolutely love that's normally, 60% more, but I see it as I'm not going to die without it. And do I love it enough to spend the money now? Is it going to add only positivity to my experience? If there's any negativity, I don't want it. I want this to be completely positive. I'm kind of the same way with my vacations. If it's not going to be a completely positive experience, I'm not interested, which is why for me personally, I don't like to go on vacations where there is danger, where someone could get sick or hurt, or where I have to do something that terrifies me. That's not relaxing for me. It may be for other people. Some people love being scared. Some people love being stressed out. Some people love overcoming an obstacle. That's not me. I want the experience to be completely fun and pleasurable. Same with fragrance. If I buy a fragrance and I'm feeling guilt or buyer's remorse, it's ruined for me. I can't indulge in that fragrance the way I would if I didn't have those feelings. I just don't enjoy it as much. So I don't do it. In terms of whether I want to take the leap and buy a fragrance, if I love it today and I love it tomorrow and I love it next week and I love it all those times on paper and on my skin, then I will consider buying it. I almost never pay full retail price for a fragrance. Almost never. I have done it a few times, and I think that's fine. There's a time to do that. But if there is a way I can use a discount code, I'm doing it. And if I have to wait to get the fragrance, if it's out of stock where the discount code is, and sometimes that is on the house's own site, sometimes they're out of stock, I will wait. If they've offered me a discount code for signing up to their mailing list, but they're out of a fragrance I want, and I can't get it anywhere else except to pay full price, I'll wait. When I have waited a while, I've ended up realizing I can definitely live without the fragrance. I get excited about fragrances that I really want, especially when I've worked myself up to the point where I'm ready to actually buy it. I've tested it, and I've, sometimes purchased more than one sample. And if I've really fallen in love, then I want it. I've given myself the thumbs up, okay, I can indulge in this. The amazing thing I discovered is I'm still going to wake up tomorrow. The world keeps spinning. Nobody's dead. I'm fine. And I have other fragrances that I really love that I can wear instead. Is it the exact same one? No. But I'll be fine without it. Whether it's fragrance or food, keep it in perspective and remember, you're in control. This is only a fragrance. It may be a lovely one, but it is not the end-all be-all, and it should not decide the course of my day, especially since I have other fragrances that make me happy. I can put on a different fragrance. And by the way, when I felt disappointed that I couldn't get a fragrance I wanted, I find one in my collection that I love, I wear it, I indulge in it, and 5 minutes later, I really couldn't care less. And then, when a fragrance is on back order, you put your email address in, notify me when it's available. I don't know, a few weeks, a month later, you get a nice little surprise. Hey, it's available. Do you still want it? You go in, you get it, if the timing is right for you. Otherwise, you've waited this long, wait a little longer until the timing's right. I have enjoyed it so much more after, the journey to achieve it. It becomes something of a drama, and that's what you indulge in the moment. I just think, keeping it in that perspective and seeing it from a different angle really helps with anything you want that you can't get at the time. Again, I compare it to other things like clothes that you want, a vacation you want to go on, a house that you're trying to buy. Anything we can think of, we can find the answer to in seconds. So the prospect of waiting for something becomes almost painful at times. I've pushed myself against that. And I think I'm a better person for it. Life will go on just fine if you can't have exactly what you want, when you want it, how you want it. At least that's what I think. Next, don't compare yourself to other people. That's an unhealthy habit. I see people do this in many areas of life, whether it's your neighbors and all the cool stuff they have, or your coworkers. It's unhealthy. I think it's far better to see what you've got and be thankful for it. If you don't have everything you want, continue to reach. Try to achieve your personal goals, whatever they are. Even if it's a big fragrance collection, as long as you're doing it in a way that isn't harmful to yourself or others, there's nothing wrong with having aspirations around a collection. People do that all the time. But when you do it because compared to someone else, you don't have as much, or you think, gee, I should have as much as that person, I do this for a living, or, I've got that. There's no reason why I can't have those things too, and yet I don't. Remember, so much of what we see is an illusion. That's right, it's fake. People lie, and why not? Or they are completely false about their circumstances. But I think when it comes to the fragrance community, a lot of people seem to make it pretty darn clear that they don't buy most of what's in their collections. In fact, I've seen some content creators say, hey, This is, you know, when they've got their giant collections behind them and oh, they're going through them and showing them all to you and there's 1,000 bottles, just hundreds and hundreds, and they are all so expensive. But sometimes they'll be the first to say, hey, I didn't buy 2/3 of this. You know, some of these were gifts, the others were PR, whatever. I buy it on the secondary market, whatever they say, and suddenly that puts it into perspective. And maybe it's not that they have these expansive means that get them these things. They've just put themselves in a position to get things for free or at a reduced cost. And there's no reason why you couldn't do the same. Now, it takes time and effort, of course. Maybe that's all this person does for a living. I don't know about all of you, but for me, I have a regular job. I can't rely on this is an indulgence for me. This isn't a way for me to support my family. So, depending on your personal circumstances, I mean, you could have the same thing if you moved in that direction. For me, I have other priorities. Fragrance is wonderful, I enjoy it, but it's not my top priority. Other things come first, second, third, 20th, without question. But to look at these other folks on YouTube and you say, oh my gosh, you know, I wish I had that. Sure, if I were willing to devote my life to fragrance in the way that they do, maybe I would. I don't know. That's not a choice I make. Other times, I think people lie. I think they're being far less than honest. Let's face it, not all content creators hold up the bottle and show you the dent. How do you know those bottles are even full? I used to be into handbags. I really loved nice handbags, and I have a few. Not a lot. Since the pandemic, I haven't gone as many places. I don't use them as much. So in the course of deciding to buy one, much like with fragrance, I researched the heck out of it. I noticed that there were people who had just hundreds of them worth $5, $10, $20, $50,000. It turns out a lot of times those aren't even real. They say they're real, but they're not real. Or they're not the property of the content creator. They've borrowed these bags from other people. You can rent these bags. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with doing that. Doesn't mean they couldn't speak intelligently about the experience they had using the bags, or the quality of the bags, or the process for obtaining one. They can. But the illusion it creates is something that, you know, your average person watching probably shouldn't compare themselves to. Alternatively, these could be people who are in dire financial straits, who have horrible personal priorities, personal financial priorities. You know, you never know the circumstances. Like all forms of entertainment, this can be a complete illusion. And so what anyway? I mean, it's fun. Let them have their fun. Why not? Just keep things in perspective. Do not compare yourself to something that may not even be real. I think, you know, there are a lot of people out there, influencers, that say, oh, I'm completely real. You know, everything about me is 100%, you know, the way God made me, and I was born this way. Cut the crap. You know, and believe me, I don't care. Say what you want. If people believe you, knock yourself out. You think people believe you, that's fine. As long as we, the audience, keep things in perspective and remember, that's just a load of crap. Image is part of what makes them money. So they're going to say whatever they have to say in order to achieve that. Just remember that. You never know the story behind that massive collection. It may not be a pretty one. It may be great. You know, maybe this is the trust fund baby who has so much money that this person can afford to spend, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on fragrance. You know, I submit that that's probably the rare exception. And what you're seeing is more illusion than anything else. That's just how I see it. And I used to wonder the same thing. Gee, you know, I work hard. You know, how is it that everybody on YouTube. All of these content creators have so much more than I do. I mean, they don't just have nice things, they have thousands of nice things, right? They don't just go on vacations, they go to Dubai like a lot. And they fly on private jets, and they're 18 years old. How does that work? Well, I don't know. I mean, I think you got to look into these things and explore them for yourselves and find out what the ugly truth may be. It could be as simple as they really are trust fund babies. Could be. But I don't think that's the case most of the time. And with that in mind, I try not to compare myself to circumstances that may be completely negative, that I would want no part of, false entirely, or just completely unattainable for me. I am not a trust fund baby. I am not a billionaire, and I probably never will be. So what in the world is the use comparing myself to that? What I can do is enjoy my circumstances and live my life in a way that's healthy, makes me happy, and more importantly, makes my family happy, is pleasing to God, and in a way that I can live with, a way that I can be content. That's how I see things. Something else that I stopped doing, I caught myself doing it and I couldn't figure out why. There are content creators, including in the fragrance community, that truly bother me. I listen to them talk and I watch their content and I get incensed. I mean it. They will say and do certain things that make me want to throw something at the screen. And one day I realized, why am I doing this? And I had subscribed to these people. And so I unsubscribed, and I tell you, I am a much happier person for it. They would go on and on about the burden, let's say, of their massive collection. And I would just say to myself, shut up. And then I realized, no, they don't have to shut up. They got every right to say whatever they want. And if people want to listen, God bless them. But I'm going to turn it off because it bothers me. It bothers me that someone would be so indulgent and then complain about the burden of all their outrageously voluminous blessings, about their legions of things, their closets, rife with stuff, whatever they were talking about, bulging at the seams. I would get put off. No. That got on my last nerve. And so I stopped watching. Instead of wanting to hear more about what they had, I felt badly and I wanted to hear less about it. And so I turned away. When I watch content, I'm looking to learn something. For me, it's about, do I want to go the extra mile and buy this fragrance? What are the experiences other people have? And I've talked about this before. Is it just like something else that I might have in my collection? Or does it not last on a lot of people? Are they saying it doesn't have any projection, or it doesn't have any staying power or longevity? If I hear a lot of that, I may not even bother with a sample. So samples are $5, whatever, but still, it's money. And the fact is, when I get a sample, I don't just get one, I tend to get 10 or so, right? So it's not a fortune, but you're spending a few bucks and then there's shipping, right? So I won't bother if everyone is saying this fragrance has 5 minutes of lasting power and it's like 10 other fragrances out there that are pretty common and easy to get. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking to watch someone indulge in their overabundant lives. And so for those channels, I'm just not interested. And some people are. There still is lots and lots of content out there dedicated exclusively to people overindulging in something. if that's your thing. You know, if you enjoy living vicariously through other people, if that's how you manage through, not overspending, go for it. Knock yourself out. I think that's great. Whatever works for you doesn't work for me. And if it doesn't work for you, consider not looking. Okay, enough of my rant. Let me know what you think about all this stuff. And hey, I don't have all the answers. I certainly don't have any answers for you. All I can do is tell you how I deal with things. And if that is information that you find useful in your life, great. Otherwise, we're all capable. You've gotten through life this far. I'm sure you know what's better for you than anybody else. These are just my thoughts. Anyway, have a great rest of the day, and like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.